Welcome to the messy middle of entrepreneurship, unfiltered and unapologetic. Uncensored Entrepreneurs, hosted by Star Cod, Robert Wall, and Tina Torres Wilson, brings you real stories from the trenches of building a business. Those late nights, hard lessons, big wins, and everything in between. This is where the truth about entrepreneurship lives. No fluff, no filters, just raw, honest conversations with founders who have lived it. So, if you're over the highlight reel and you're ready for the real deal, hit play. There's a version of success that looks like credentials, decades of experience, and a career most people would envy. And then there's that quiet moment when you realize all of that knowledge still hasn't answered the deepest question that you carry about yourself. Dr. Christi Campbell has lived both sides of that. She's a healthcare entrepreneur, transformational guide, and author of Soul Whispers, A Journey of Becoming. With nearly 5 decades in the healthcare industry as a PhD and a family nurse practitioner, Dr. Campbell has built a practice that bridges modern medicine with a soul centered approach to healing. She helps people reconnect with their inner wisdom, find alignment, and step into their most authentic version of themselves. This conversation is about what happens when you stop outsourcing your healing and you start listening to that voice that's been there all along. Dr. Campbell, welcome to Uncensored Entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be here today talking with you all.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was an amazing bio.
What a nice, clean intro.
I was going to say, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you very much.
Then that is today's show.
Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next week.
So I'm really excited to have you on our show. So we'll talk about it as we probably peel back some layers throughout the conversation. But you and I had the opportunity to meet sometime, I think, in the last quarter of 2025. And we've had the opportunity to reunite again this year on some projects down in Dallas. So that's pretty cool. Some things that have been happening over there. But I just loved our conversations enough that you and I talked about one of these days, I'm going to have you on the podcast. And the reason is that I find that you have had the opportunity to take an element of what was really your career, your skill set, things that you've learned in more of a modern practice of the world. And you've even taken it to another level, right? Knowing that there's this, but true healing happens in the heart, mind, and soul. So, super excited to unravel some of those things. But obviously, my co hosts have not had the opportunity to meet you and sit around with a glass of wine like we have, right? Around the table. So, let's just pretend like we're there. We're in that restaurant or the hotel. We're having our glass of wine today.
Who's buying?
I know. I'll get the first round.
Look like wine to me.
Hey, cheers, Christy.
By the way, just me saying that makes me feel like we should have started with a glass of wine on this show today.
At 11, who cares? 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's right. So thank you again. And Chrissy, you've already said that we can drop the doctor for the conversation today, but I wanted to give you the honor because you've worked really hard to get those credentials. But tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey. You can pick it up wherever it's at. And we really want to talk about that transformation of maybe some of the things that you've done throughout your life and what's led you to this journey that you've been on for the last few years.
Oh, wow. That's such a huge question. And one of the things you said in that introduction, or as we were just chatting after that, the peeling back of layers, that resonated within me because we all have journeys and some are more tuned into what's actually happening on that journey than others. And I spent a large part of my life, probably the first 40 years or so, what I would now call not tuned in, doing what everybody just does. You grow, you go to school, you get education, you find somebody, you get married, you have kids, you have a career, blah, blah, right? And of course, there was a lot of undercurrent of things that when I reflect back, I can see how my life was changing and how I was attuned to certain things and how it just kept building and leading to where things are now. That it was in my 40s that I finally came to this realization that I'm here for purpose. This isn't just about walking through this rote little journey and path, follow the yellow brick road to the end, but being here actually for a reason. That was the little crack and the little glimmer that started coming in. And when you hear that and you allow that and it begins to fill and it begins to grow and it begins to expand, then it's no longer a crack. And ultimately, you're finally living that, right? And you're embracing it and you're understanding it and seeing that the things you go through in life are truly beautiful lessons. And what I've always thankfully and gratefully and full of gratitude have just always had the attitude that I would pick up whatever pearls of knowledge and gems of enlightenment that happened with each of the things that happened to me, because there's been significant things that have happened to me as well as happens to other people. But I think the important thing is to learn from them and to not wallow and sit in the disastrous time, but to always take the high road and see where it's going and see what's happening. And I know that maybe sounds like a hierarchy something. I'm just saying it, but it really is true.
Christy, I love that you said that because, as these guys know, I do a collaboration book every year called Be a Glow Stick Girl, where I bring in women who talk about their broken glow stick moment. So in your 40s, you said this all happened in your 40s, and a lot of people think once they're 40, oh, it's too late for me. I missed the mark. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like Martha Stewart, Oprah, they all started in 40s and as 50-year-old women starting this because I think that's when a lot of women, their kids are grown, they're getting older, they're either in high school or they've already graduated, and they're starting to see them now, who they are. So in your 40s, what was that broken glow stick moment for you?
I can remember it exactly when this inkling happened, and it sounds so simplistic, but it really is. I can go back to it. We had moved to Austin, Texas, which is where I now live. We had gone to an art festival, the Laguna Gloria Art Festival. We walked by this booth. It was really crowded, nighttime. Could have walked right past this booth, but didn't. Stopped there, talked to this wonderful artist, got to know him, and he is now passed, but he had a beautiful little sweet, quaint gallery down nestled in a part of Austin. And I got to know him, got to know some of the other artists that were in there. So it's like you can just look at, I just love it when you look at where your journey leads you. How'd that happen? Right. And it was within the context of that little gallery that somebody said, hey, we're going to do this little class. And oh, I'm not going to be able to think right now what the name of it is, but you would recognize it if I could say it. Darn it. But anyway, a group of women came together and we were studying this book. And the very first day, we talked about the concept of synchronicity. Now, I had never heard that word before, not to my knowledge anyway. And as soon as you hear that word, what does it do? It starts happening, right? But I can look back to that and that very moment in time and that word. And then as things started synchronistically happening, that was a tiny little glimmer. That was the glimmer, and I was intrigued by it, and I thought, "That's really cool, that's interesting," and it's beginning to pull on that little thread that's happening in your life, and you wanna just see more. You want, "What does that mean? What is this telling me?" And that's the very, very beginning, though, and then things just begin to grow from that, and I had been seeking at that time how and what to do with my career, and as my career has gone from starting as an RN way back in the day. I had originally in high school wanted to be a surgeon, and that just wasn't anything that was going to be on my palette for life. So I started that way. But when I look back at all those things, even the surgeon, it was like, how can I help people? How can I help them? What do they need to change in their life? And then it was the physical, but then it moved into the other things. And as everything has just morphed along and I've understood that we are the compilation of mind, body, spirit. Everything has to work in concert and has to work together and has to be balanced. And so everything just started feeding into all of that. And as I sought different ways to go about my career, because I would like have a little jag every 4 or 5 years or so, I was looking at potentially going to offshore medical school. I was looking at doing medical law. I was looking at all kinds of different things. And I actually even started taking some pre-med classes, but it was at the time where my daughter was getting ready to turn 13. And I saw what it was taking for me as a single mom to work all day, study all night, work all day, study all night. And I thought, no, this is not the path I need to be on. This is not going to do justice to my child. So I put that aside. And similarly, then I was at a conference and I walked down the big rooms, displays, and all that, the trades and all. I was wandering in there and I walked by this booth and I chatted with them for a second and they just looked at me and said, "Oh, you need to go 4 rows over and 6 booths down and you need to talk to Reed. He's at that booth." I mean, this is how things lead. And I know people, here's the thing. I know people, this happens to people all the time, but they don't pay attention, right? And they just go and blunder through. But anyway, I went down to talk to him and he was they're promoting their PhD program, which was around the central construct of healing. And it just resonated with me 100%. And so that's how I ended up going the PhD route because I didn't think I would ever do that. That wasn't in my plan. I guess I really didn't have a plan of how things were going to go anyway, but that's how I ended up with that. But it was in that concept and it was in that container, if you will, of working on my PhD that I met pivotal people that are still walking the journey with me in life right now. It was in that particular situation that I had some amazing moments of clarity and enlightenment because in that very, very first semester, there were classes on ethics and philosophy. And when somebody asks you, what is your philosophy? What do you believe? The first thing that came out of my mouth was, here's what I was taught to believe.
Oh, I like that.
But in my heart, did I believe that there was this misalignment there?
Here's what I was taught to believe, but here's what I have found on this journey. I love the fact, by the way, you opened up with saying that your initial intention was to become a surgeon. And now that I've known you for a while, I mean, you still are, you're like a surgeon of the soul, right? I love the fact that you're healing people through your own means. And I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted to really tap into that aspect, that shift right there in your story where I would imagine we talk to a lot of people in conventional healthcare all the time. And it's a certain way. You just mentioned it. It's a certain way of what you were taught to believe. And I would imagine that that shift has cost you a great deal of things professionally initially when it came to you thinking outside the box and maybe not in a conventional means of healing or helping people. So, can you tell us just a little bit about maybe that, where when you started to take on more of a soul centered approach, has the bridge between conventional and more soul centered cost you some things throughout that time?
Okay, so I want to say one thing, first of all, at what you just said, because I think it's really important that people hear this. When you said something about when you heal, da 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 da, right? I don't heal. I provide an opportunity where people can begin to understand their own mind, body, spirit, how they can begin to bring things into awareness, how healing happens for them. Okay. I just like to clarify that because some people in life do put themselves out there as healers. And I don't see my role that way. My role is working with people, walking with people, providing an environment and a context by which they can begin to have a glimmer of understanding themselves and begin to see perhaps where their journey is going to lead.
No, that's great. So you're creating the blueprint. So for our audience and everyone to know, you're helping guide them.
She's guiding them along.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And actually, that just reminds me because if you're going to bring up, for instance, my book, I am going to answer your question though. But it's like I wrote a preface. I wrote the book, Soul Whispers, A Journey of Becoming. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But I wrote a preface to go with it because I needed to put the story out there about why I wrote the book. Right. So I put the preface and put some personal things in there. And then at the very end of the preface, it was like, and this is how I see my life. It's like, here, take my hand, come along with me as we journey through this. And so that's how I see how I work with people and how my life is. Now, did I have a difficulty with these transitions? You were kind of asking me. Interestingly, I did not. I did not. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. I was provided with so much fantastic understanding humans and doctors and other professionals around me as I moved through this whole thing. So within the PhD, like I said, I now have very, very close friends that were with me at that moment of enlightenment and have watched me grow and change and come into where I am. And as Tina, you were mentioning about people their lives can just change in their 40s, and mine began there, and I'm in my 70s and living my best life and doing things I wouldn't have even dreamed that I was going to be doing at this point in time, right?
You don't need to lie on this show, Christy. There's no way you're in your 70s. But anyways, keep going.
As I really delved deep into myself, and I knew that I needed to bring that into the arena of healing. Well, I opened a practice in 2006 that was an integrative health center. So that was bringing mind, body, spirit together into the healing. And this wonderful friend of mine and doctor I worked with for a long, long time, who left the earth just last fall, he supported everything I did. And everybody I came in contact just knew that that's what I did. And I truly, truly never encountered any negativity. And so the interesting thing, now, as soon as I said that, something came into my head. So I'm going to say it. I believe that's how divine messages come. I honestly encountered a little bit more negativity from some people that were in the healing world, not in the medical world.
Interesting. Okay.
It's very interesting. And I really don't know why, but I got more pushback if there was any, and there really wasn't much. I really have a lot of gratitude for that. So that's really the answer to your question. I don't have any juicy stories to tell
No,
you.
I love that. And quite honestly, all I heard there that whole time, I mean, the core of it is that you stepped into your purpose. Many of us don't do that, right? We go through a journey.
It was like the doors were wide open.
Yes, exactly. And also when you mentioned just now you received some pushback from another, I should say, end of the community, the first thing I'm thinking is like coaching, just coaching in general. There's some coaches that it's like, this is the plan I'm creating for you, and this is what you have to do, right? Step 1 through 10. And it's their way. But you're doing something a little bit different, meaning that you're creating an opportunity for people to experience. You're guiding them with this blueprint, but you know that the true healing happens on their own personal journey, right? And same thing with coaching. I'm just speaking for really all of us here on the show today. That's part of the plan. That is the transformation. It's a variable thing that happens and it changes and shifts and pivots and there's highs and lows. And I would imagine that sometimes, some, not always, but just like in the coaching world, there's some people in the healing world that are like, no, that's not part of the journey. I'm the one fixing the problem, right?
I'm the healer.
Yes, that's why I like that distinction at the very beginning. And the whole point is that, in my opinion, nobody should look at it as doing to people. That's not going to affect change. That's going to affect surface change. But when you're working with someone, that's where transformation happens, right? And another thing that I was going to say just a second ago when something was said, I think, Tina, you might have mentioned something, but it's like the journey and the door opening wide, right? Door opens wide for a lot of people and they get to the threshold. Don't go through it. Don't cross the threshold, right?
I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Before we dive back in, I want to share something I've seen again and again. When business feels stuck, it's not always strategy, it's often misalignment. That's what inspired me to create the Universal Brand Alignment Method. It's a course that helps entrepreneurs reconnect with who they truly are and how they're meant to lead so that their message finally lands. So if you're ready for your brand to reflect your truth, then head to brandingcollaborative.com/alignment. That's brandingcollaborative.com/alignment. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
And so I think that's a pivotal thing for people to really understand. One of the reasons that I wrote my book, which I'm so excited for it to wing its way out into the world, but I think to hopefully shed a glimmer of light for people that are looking and maybe not quite knowing how to step across that threshold, or maybe they've put one foot in and they're not quite sure where it goes.
And sometimes they sabotage themselves. And no, 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 this is not the right door. No, no, no. Even though it's wide open, there's blocks or anything trying to go through it. No, 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 no. This is too easy. I'm not going to walk through that.
Well, most of us are in that comfort zone, right? And there's the fear attached to something new, something different, right? So I love that.
Let's talk about your methodology a little bit deeper. We're so excited for your book that's going to be coming out. And I want to talk about the intelligence within. I know you're really big on that. For someone who spent their whole life, maybe they're looking for answers externally, what does it mean for them to actually trust their inner knowing?
That's the key right there, Star. That's who we are. That's the real us.
For the ever knowing is who we are inside.
Yes, I mean, it's connected to your soul, and the soul is who we are. And it becomes so pivotally clear if you weren't really thinking about it. But when you work in medicine, and I worked a lot in my geriatric career and watching people and go through and supporting them as they went through the life transitions process. And there's no way you can not understand that when the soul leaves the body is what we are in, what we're walking through life in. It's the soul that's the innermost being. It's the us of the thing. Being connected to that, in my opinion, is the thing that really opens those doors, shines the light, shows us the journey. And so that's really where my work has focused. So this is interesting, and I was just flashing through my head, Robert, where you said surgeon of the soul, and I'm going to use that. I love that. That's a soundbite. That's where my work is because my work was more outward. My work was treating the symptoms and in medicine, and I just loved working with people and talking with people and listening to them and seeing how they were changing and moving and what they needed and looking at the surface things. But the surface things are there because of what's going on underneath the energetic body, and the energetic body is part and parcel of the soul, right? And so you have to change things at that level in order to affect the outward change. And you have to affect change and understand those things in order to change, truly change your environment and find that peace within. Because people in general, I think, are out there seeking, looking for things to fulfill, right? And a lot of people are out there even seeking accolades and seeking promotions and seeking relationships and seeking whatever it is they're seeking. And there's nothing wrong with seeking, for heaven's sakes. We all should be seeking to grow and change. But you don't find that inner peace for yourself outside. You find the inner peace for yourself inside first, right? And when you have that deep connection and you can stand naked in your soul, that's one way to think about it. You peel off those layers and you really allow yourself in the quiet moment and that stillness in between everything to connect and know the real you, then that beautiful discovery and reverence within is what's going to reflect out into the world. That's going to be what changes your environment. That's going to be what brings you, I think, the things that you're supposed to have on the journey moving forward. And so it doesn't actually become such a matter of seeking, it becomes a matter of accepting and recognition as those things are developed and your path is just opened for you. And the journey you're supposed to be on and the things you're supposed to do, you're going to know that. And that also harkens back to we all have those little whispers. We all have those little intuitive nudges, right? We all do. But many, many people don't listen.
Too busy. They're busy, 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 busy doing all these little busy things.
Yeah, too much noise going on. And so, yeah, sorry, I appreciate you asking that question because that is the meat of the issue. That is the whole recipe. That's it. I mean, you need to have that inner glow is just the thing that comes to me. It's more than that, but when you have peeled back all those things and you stand there and recognize who you are and can understand that and embrace that. That's what really truly affects change and transformation. And so that's also what happens when you do this kind of work. I mean, if someone is coming to work, I have no script. I don't know how it's going to turn out. It begins with a conversation. And it begins with maybe pulling on one of their little threads, or I see it or I hear it and I ask them about it. And a lot of times you use this metaphor of tapestry, right? And think about all the things that happen to us in life as all those threads feeding into that beautiful tapestry that's uniquely ours. And it might have ragged, torn, knotted places.
I've got a few of those.
That's what adds character. That's what gives it all of its beautiful nuances, but it's also gonna be filled with the shimmery, beautiful threads, right? And you can always go back and look at that tapestry and pull on one and bring it out and examine it and look at it and actually hold it in gratitude for what it taught you, right? So you can always do that in your life and look at those things. And that's all part and parcel of this becoming, if you will. The journey of becoming is the journey of that fuller discovery of yourself so that you're really living in truth and honesty. Becoming is not becoming a doctor, for instance. It's not becoming a certain profession. It's not becoming whatever it might be. It's not a thing. It is a process. And it is really the process of becoming your true self and living your true self.
Yeah, I love that topic where you gave an example of the tapestry and how we can pull certain threads out. That really gave us an eye opener for us to be able to see that we can evaluate different aspects of our lives, our career, our
You
health.
actually get that visualization of it.
Exactly. So, Christy, I do know that there's this growing conversation around holistic medicine and traditional medicine. In fact, we've had other guests on our show and we've had this same conversation. So, it's definitely popular. What do you feel that traditional medicine is doing right? And where are they getting it wrong?
Well, actually, the first thing that comes to my mind is to say there's a place for both. And rightness and wrongness, I'm not sure that I wanna put it in those sorts of rigid boxes, honestly, because we are living in human bodies that sometimes must have traditional medicine to fix them, right? To take care of things that are going on within them. And so they don't get anything wrong in traditional medicine most of the time. I still don't wanna pigeonhole everybody. Most of the time, don't take it below the surface.
Yeah, they're leaving something out.
They're all about the actual physical part of the body. That's what traditional medicine is typically about. The parts of the human body, the symptoms of the human body, all about the actual body and not about the other components that make us what we are, the mind, the spirit, the soul. And so that one would have to think would be the holistic side, right? And the holistic side is not without its lack either, because sometimes what you find in that bucket is people who totally eschew the traditional. It's like, oh, no, we don't need that at all. That's whatever it is. And then the ones, like we said at the very beginning, who believe themselves to be the healer. And so I think that there needs to be this nice blending of it. That's where the magic is. I think that's where the sweet spot is, because we are the spirit and soul living within the human body. So we need both, right? That education and that learning was brought into the world for a reason. I mean, my daughter just went through a horrendous crisis, and I'm not going to go into that, but it turned out to be, well, it was a miracle, in my opinion. But nonetheless, she would not be alive if it were not for traditional medicine that could take care of what her problem was. As she came out of that, she spoke about this. So I'm not speaking out of school to say this little thing, how it changed her life, not head, but emotionally. That's what I'm trying to say. It changed some things around her emotional being as well. So there was just a simple example of the need for both. And to me, it's like the yin and the yang. You need them both. You need the balance. I'm really truly myself all about, it's going to sound kind of rote maybe, but love and acceptance and standing with someone wherever they are. And if you can't be that way with someone, then it would be very difficult to hold that sacred container for them to have any kind of transformation. If you sit there in judgment of what they're thinking, what their belief is, you can't possibly help them affect change or create an environment for them to affect change. I think that's a really pivotal thing. And this is one thing that I can speak to, Robert, when you asked about difficulties. It didn't come in the form of learning to be different or more embracing in medicine. It came from spiritual beliefs and the problems that I ran into, the difficulties or the hurt and judgment that I ran into when I grew outside of the religious container I was raised in.
Interesting. Yeah, and you and I've had some deep conversations, right, around that. So, I love the way that you put that. Very elegant, and I would think that most of us can actually feel that because we live in this world where it's this or that, right? It's 2 containers, 2 choices, period. And if you don't think my way, then there is no sacred space for healing or transformation. right? And so I love how you put that together. It actually made me think a little bit around just the pure spiritual analogy that most people want transformation, or they want something in life, and so they pray over it. But the answer to that prayer may come with, and most of the time it is, you must take action, right? And what you just stated there really made me think of that yin and yang, where it's like, I will pray for healing, but you know what? I know that there's certain things I need to do. I can't sit on the couch, pray for healing when I can get up if I am mobile and I need to start moving, right? And so I love that. And quite honestly, it's not just in health, but transferring this same ideology in all aspects of our life.
Very much so. And you talk about, how can I say this? Terminology in belief systems is really just that. It's almost the same focus and same belief using different terminology. So it's like you were talking about praying for healing. Maybe somebody else is meditating for healing. Somebody sitting on a couch wanting this, and maybe somebody else's thought and what resonates with them is setting an intention for something and working with it and doing also the things you need to do to make that thing manifest, because you have to think about the secret, right? You don't just sit there on your sofa and go, "Oh, I want to portion the driveway." Boom, portioning the driveway. It doesn't happen that way, right? It's like you feel in your heart the way you want change, and you sit with it and you know that's what you want. And in a way, I can really relate to that, because probably 5 years ago, I'd be sitting out on my porch and working with what I call is my spiritual guru or whatever, in so many different ways. And I'd say what I'm supposed to do and how am I going to get out there. I'm sitting here on my porch in Austin, Texas. I know a lot of people in Austin, but beyond that, I don't. Who's going to hear this? How am I going to get the word out? And now here I am, like 5 years later. I have friends in Europe, I have friends in Australia, I have friends all around the world from different connections that I've made. I'm being invited to do things like this. Thank you, Robert, because we met in the journey and as it interweaves. And I mean, Robert and I could have said, "Hi, how are you?" And off we go down the road and not have a connection, but we had a connection, right? And so we follow that. And now here we are with that. And we'll probably do some other things in the future as we chatted about. And so somebody's going to hear this podcast and somebody's going to say, "Oh, I'd like to talk to her," or talk to Robert, or talk to Tina, or talk to Star, whatever it is. And it grows and it goes. And so, really, all I'm saying is the intention to be on this stage, I'm gonna use it that way, because I mean, it's not that I wanna be on a stage with a spotlight, but the intention to be heard, because I knew I had a message to offer, right? Not even to deliver, I had a message to offer, because I know that there are a lot of people out there who'd go, "Oh my gosh, it would be so lovely if I can take somebody's hand and go through this," right? I flew out to New York to be on a show that's coming out, like a talk show sort of thing. So in a way, it'd be similar to this, if it's gonna be running on TV actually. And the producer that called to talk to me about it, oh my gosh, it was just the most beautiful conversation. We talked for about an hour and a half, first conversation. And it come to find out she was only 26 or 28 years old. She had come into the world already a spiritual being and knew it and knew things. And it had actually come through a sort of a similar family of origin thing where she couldn't stay within those religious confines,
Traditional beliefs. Yeah.
traditional beliefs. And so when we talked about that, I mean, it was just one of those divine things that we were supposed to be brought together to talk about. Because she said to me, "If I only would have heard your words when I was going through that, if I only would have known there was somebody there." And that just resonated. I have goosebumps.
Isn't that something? When you have a gift and you don't get on shows like this, or you don't put your message out to the world, it's being a little selfish, to be quite honest, right? Because I mean, our gifts were given to heal and to serve others. And so by getting on a show like this, it's not about amplifying yourself, it's about amplifying your purpose and your mission to serve others.
That's what I usually tell my clients. I mean, you're being selfish if you don't share your story with others because somebody needs to hear what you had gone through because they're going through it.
Yes, and you have no idea who. I sat on a flight, little teeny weeny plane, as it turned out, but coming back from Miami, I think it was, to Austin, and sat by this gentleman, and he had changed his seat right before we got on the plane. But we ended up in a conversation that had to do with leadership and spirituality. And he's the big owner of stuff here in Austin. And we're just chatting. And most of the time, I don't chat on airplanes, quite frankly. I'll sit and I'll just do my thing and get off. But We started talking, and after we just had this wonderful conversation, he just looked at me and he said, I was supposed to sit back and see whatever it was. And he said, I changed it right before we came on the plane. And he said, what you have said to me today is exactly what I needed to hear.
That's exactly how it's supposed to work. That is exactly it. I'm going to circle right back around. When the doors open, you must take the step across that threshold and be open to that change, open to that purpose. I mean, not sitting in the same pew every day, right? Like, get to know the things around you and to experience new energy and new people and new lives. I love this. And quite honestly, we could talk for hours. You mentioned an hour and a half. We could talk beyond that. And so we're definitely going to have you back on to talk about some other things that you have going on, I'm sure. Let me ask you this, as we're just nearing for the sake of time, what is one practice? And I always love asking this, what's one practice that someone can take right now to start experiencing some of this transformation or reconnecting with their inner wisdom? Do you have any exercises or things that you'd like to leave our audience with?
The very simplest, probably most powerful thing is to sit in stillness.
But yet, that is the hardest.
It can be the hardest with the world and the chaos and the turmoil.
In my ADHD brain.
Right? Same, Star, same. Oh, I gotta do this. 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 And they're like, Tina, come back. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, and I mean, that doesn't cost anybody anything, and it can be a teeny weeny itty bitty little bit of time. I know some people's lives are chaotic from the time their feet hit the floor, but you know there's a minute somewhere where something is not going on, and if somebody is really seeking to begin to find that little glimmer, they're gonna find that minute. If they can't find the minute, then they're not ready. That's what it boils down to. If they are ready and they really want to know, they're gonna find that minute wherever it is. And it's not about, okay, learning to meditate. I'm not a meditator. I'm a walk in nature. I'm gonna drive my convertible top down and talk to the beings and God. That's how I kind of get my downloads and things like that. I was never one that could just sit there and meditate for hours. But that's not what I'm talking about. But if you can simply quiet your mind is what it is. Maybe somebody's a runner, but in their mind they're just going a million miles a minute with everything they have to do. But just begin to work just trying to be still.
Unplug from the noise, like you said, because we're all caught up in that, in the noise of all the labels that have been placed upon us, right? Husband, wife, brother, sister, maybe a caretaker, just constantly on the go. And I love that. And the fact that it doesn't have to be in the stillness of pure meditation. Meditation for you may be driving down a country road with the top down.
It is. I love it. That if I'm seeking an answer on something, I'll go get in my car and I'll just go, okay, guys, come on, it's time. Let's go. And off we go and just let things go and come. And it always does. And I mean, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times I get the most fantastic things through that. And other times it's like, okay, I guess there wasn't really a big message that needed to come, but that's okay. That's easy for me because I've gotten to the point where I can do that. I can tap into it really easily. But it does pull back to the whole point. If somebody is ready for the transformation, they will find the time and they will want to. And another thing they can think about is maybe seeing a golden thread and wanting to pull on that golden thread in your mind's eye. That gives you something to focus on. And if what you see is that golden thread that goes down deep into your soul and you're watching that, that's going to lead you there. And so that just came to me. I've never said that before in my life.
I love that. I'm already thinking like somehow with this whole analogy of tapestry, that is definitely powerful.
Definitely. How can our audience get your book, Soul Whispers?
Very soon, I will have it out for pre-sales. It launches July 23rd, and I actually have a prototype of it.
Beautiful.
And it's your color. I've seen the purples, right?
Yeah, purples and greens, and I'm very, very excited about that, and people can follow me on Facebook and any of the social medias. Going to my website can plug you into all the social medias because 'cause they'll all be down there. You can click on them, but ChristiCampbellHealing.com is my website, which is interesting. The development of that just a few short years ago was me standing 100% in the work I'm supposed to do, going from contemporary healthcare, which was my integrative healing, to what am I doing? I'm doing Christi Campbell healing work. So that's the name of the website, and you can access everything. You can see more about the actual work I do because all that is on there is the actual soul based. This is the surgical soul based things. It's no, what'd you say? Surgeon of the soul. There you go.
Surgeon of the soul, a soul surgeon.
Soul surgeon. Yeah. That's really cool in one way, but in another, that makes me think I'm doing something to the person.
I'm cutting this out of you.
You wanted to be a surgeon, Christy.
Yeah. And then I'm going to also say it has come to me very recent to actually do a rendering of my book. And so I'm currently writing it right now to turn it into just little poems, like a contemplative little poetry of each musing. Because I don't have chapters in here, I have musings because it's more about me thinking and talking and musing with people like we are today. And so that's going to be out at Christmas probably.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm sure both Tina and Star feel the same exact way. What a perfect time when the book launches and we've had the opportunity to allow that to nourish our soul. We will have you back on because I would love to really kind of dissect the book.
I would love that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I truly appreciate it. Really, really do having you on today's show. We've talked about it for a while. Today's guest, Dr. Christi Campbell, healthcare entrepreneur, transformational guide, and the author of Soul Whispers, A Journey of Becoming, which is launching July, was it 23rd?
23rd.
23rd of this year. So very, very exciting. And you're just a beautiful soul. So I look forward to hearing more from you in the future. And again, for those that will be tuning in, listening to this on podcast or maybe watching it on YouTube in the future, definitely reach out to Christi Campbell, and all of her links and the ways that you can get a hold of her and to get the book pre-ordered will be on our information across social media and all podcast streaming. So thank you once again for being on the show today.
Thank you, Christy. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. If you're getting value from the show, take a minute to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you tune in. It helps more bold entrepreneurs find us. Until next time, keep showing up, uncensored and unapologetic. And we'll catch you on the next episode.